Have you ever wondered how a single family could control an entire nation for over a century? This was the reality in Nepal under the Rana regime. Our story begins in the mid-19th century, as a cunning and ambitious man named Jung Bahadur Rana seized power in a coup d'etat. With political savvy and ruthlessness, he established a hereditary prime ministership, ensuring that the reins of power would remain within the Rana family. Consolidating power wasn't enough for the Ranas. They centralized authority, creating an autocratic rule that left no room for opposition. Their dominance wasn't just political, it was economic and social too. They held the nation's wealth in their hands and dictated the structure of society, establishing an oppressive regime that loomed large over the lives of the Nepalese people. Thus, a powerful dynasty was formed, one that would rule Nepal with an iron fist for over 100 years. But what was life like under the Rana regime? The answer: anything but pleasant for most. The Rana regime was synonymous with autocratic rule, characterized by a centralized power structure in the hands of the Rana family. The regime was a well-oiled machine of oppression, with the Ranas maintaining a firm grip on the political, economic, and social spheres of life in Nepal. At the heart of the Rana regime was a feudal social system. Power and wealth were concentrated in the hands of a small elite class, the Ranas and their allies. Meanwhile, the majority of the population, the workers and peasants, were caught in a cycle of exploitation and poverty. Political dissent was a dangerous game to play. The regime had no tolerance for opposition. Critics were swiftly dealt with, imprisoned, exiled, or worse, executed. Basic civil liberties and human rights were routinely trampled upon. In essence, the Rana regime was a reign of terror, marked by exploitation and oppression. However, no regime, no matter how powerful, can last forever. The Rana regime was no exception. As the mid-20th century approached, the Rana rule in Nepal was under immense pressure, both internally and externally. The winds of change were blowing globally, and Nepal was not immune. The rise of democratic movements, both within and outside the country, began to challenge the Rana's authoritarian rule. Internally, a new generation of Nepalese leaders was emerging, their spirits not dampened by the oppressive regime, but rather ignited with a desire for change. They were no longer willing to live under the yoke of feudal systems and political suppression. Externally, the international climate was shifting towards democracy and human rights, further isolating the Rana regime. These pressures culminated in a potent force that the Rana rule could no longer withstand. And so the Rana regime came to an end, leaving behind a legacy of repression and struggle, but also sparking a desire for change and democracy. So, what can we take away from this chapter of Nepalese history? The Rana regime, with its oppressive rule and exploitative social system, was a time of hardship for many. It's a stark reminder of the consequences of unchecked power and the importance of democracy. It underscores the value of human rights, which were routinely violated during this period. History, as they say, is our greatest teacher. The Rana regime may be a dark chapter in Nepal's past, but it's one that has shaped the nation's present and will continue to influence its future.